Hello, everyone. Let's welcome Rik Marselis. I'm so happy that you're here today. Rik is a principal quality consultant at Sogeti and chairman of the TMAP Special Interest Group. As a key contributor to the TMAP body of knowledge, co-author of several books, and recipient of multiple international awards, he has helped shape the global conversation on quality engineering. Today, he takes us on a journey through 30 years of TMAP and offers a glimpse into what the future, especially with GenAI, may hold. Let's give a warm welcome to Rik Marselis. Rik, I'm so happy you're here and enjoy your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Elena. And I'm happy to be here and welcome everybody. Good that you're looking here at the Testing Summit. And yeah, I'll be happy to talk about 30 years of TMAP because not many people know that the history goes back that far already. So, what is TMAP? TMAP started off as the test management approach, and the first paper was published in 1993. It was only 7 pages, but the first book was published in 1995, and that's where we start counting for the history. And today it's the body of knowledge for quality engineering and testing with the website tmap.net. So let me tell you and take you through history from back then until today. Elena already introduced me, so I'll quickly skip this slide. As you can see, I've been involved in writing books about quality and testing for almost 20 years already. And like Elena said, I'm very proud that I received a few awards that mainly motivate me to keep on doing what I'm doing and share knowledge with the world of testing. So let's have a look. The role of testers. Now, I've been involved in IT for 45 years, and about 40 years ago, the role of testers, it was simple. There were no people that were dedicated testers. The testing was done because as a developer, I learned that the program is not ready if there's no test with it, but we didn't really have testers. And 39 years ago, it started here in the Netherlands, and I will tell you a little more about that in a minute. But like Elena already said in the intro, today there's a lot of things with GenAI. So let's first have a look. How does ChatGPT see testers? So what we did is we gave this prompt, create an image of 5 software testers who are assessing the quality of a program by designing and executing test cases and document the results in a report. And then what happens? It shows this group of people all holding clipboards. So apparently ChatGPT thinks that testers are working with clipboards. And there's only one computer screen in the back where there's the program that they're obviously testing. One thing that we already notice is that today, when generating a picture, you get a nice blended group. So it's not only old white men, but it's a nice diverse group, which testing is today. So that's really good. The evolution of the reasons for testing and quality engineering over the years. And the first book I got about testing is The Art of Software Testing by Glenford Myers. And it was published even before I got into IT. And back then, the definition was testing is running a program to find errors. And the idea behind it was find all the bugs and fix them, because then you would have perfect software. Well, some years later, Jerry Weinberg wrote this book, The Perfect Software and Other Illusions About Testing. So back then we already knew that finding all the bugs and fixing them is basically impossible. So in the mid-1990s, the first TMAP book was published. The book Testen volgens TMAP, Testing According to TMAP. And there it was mainly about structure, working in a structured way, creating structured tests, and that already improved if you look at the art of software testing, because there quite a bit was unstructured testing. 10 years later, 2006, it was supply information about quality and risks. So the focus came more on quality and risk and the information about that. Yet, about almost 10 years later, we had Niels' Quest for Quality, which was a novel about testing. So it's just a story about the test manager. And that was about getting confidence in the level of quality. Then we had Testing in the Digital Age with the subtitle AI Makes the Difference, for as far as we know, the first book about AI and testing. And by now, some parts are already outdated because developments in AI go so quickly, but more about that later. And the current core of the TMAP body of knowledge is the book Quality for DevOps Teams, which is all about quality engineering for DevOps, for Agile, etc. And the focus there is confidence on business value. So it's about getting the value that organizations need. So this is how testing and quality engineering evolved over the years. Some people wonder how many TMAP books were actually published, because I've shown a couple of them, but this is the whole pile, and actually this is not all of them, because one book we couldn't find anymore in our library. So, well, if somebody still has the TMAP infrastructure book, then please let me know. So many books were written, and the first book 30 years ago was written by Martin Pol, Ruud Teunissen, and Erik van Veenendaal. And don't they look young here? Later we have another picture of the three people of today. That was 1995. And then 2006, we have 5 people working on the TMAP next book, the big book you see in the middle of the pile. Well, I have it here somewhere. Well, doesn't matter. And that was 750 pages, 1.5 kilo, because back then we didn't have a website yet. And nowadays you can hardly imagine, but 20 years ago, having a website was not all that obvious. And today we have Quality for DevOps Teams. This is a recent picture of us, the 4 main authors of the book, but of course 80 people worked on it. We had, and that's what happened to TMAP over the years. Always there were a lot of people involved for reviewing, sharing knowledge, getting new ideas, etc. Talking about people, how many people have been involved? And this, by the way, is the team that kicked off the latest book, the Quality for DevOps Teams book in 2019. But how many people have been involved? Well, of course, having a celebration for 30 years, we did some counting. So we had about 30 authors, and that is 30 years and 30 authors is a coincidence, because some book, like you said, had like 4 or 5 authors, others 1 or 2, but that was a big deal. And then we had about 300 people who helped in reviewing, sharing knowledge, that sort of thing. We had about 100 people that actually built the body of knowledge, because today we have a website with more than 1,000 pages with all sorts of information from the books and also other information that came later, but also a lot of downloads, a full glossary. The glossary is available in 6 languages. So many people helped us on that. And we have at least 25 people that helped creating training courses. So TMAP training courses have been around for over 25 years now. And well, when I say 25 people creating them, probably I've missed a few, because I also don't know all of them. I've only been involved the last 17 years. There's at least 250 trainers around the globe. Currently, we have 60 accredited trainers, but in the past, we have had many other people, of course. And we even had over the years at least 50 people creating exam questions, because doing a TMAP exam often is a good way to show that you have the knowledge and you're able to contribute to projects using this knowledge. And I'm probably forgetting many people, like the people that talked about it on conferences, shared knowledge in other ways, wrote articles, etc. So we talked about the TMAP authors. It's approximately 30. And on 17th of April, we organized a reunion. And we had 18 people present. If you count this picture, you see that's only 17 because one of them had to leave before we took the picture, which is a pity, but still. And here you also can see the huge diversity of different books. There's a book about embedded testing. There's a book about test automation. And also you see the big difference in ages, because some of the authors have been working on it for almost 4 decades now, and more about that in a minute. And others have just joined this whole team. So how many books were printed? And I found a photo of one of the slides of a previous conference where we announced that of the first major books, in total it was 145,000 books printed and sold. And of course, back then there were no websites, so many more people had to buy a book if you wanted to read it. And keep in mind that these books have been translated in all sorts of languages. Of course, English, German, French, but also even in Chinese and Korean. So there have been many different editions, and that's why the huge number. But it doesn't stop there, because even for the recent books like the Testing in the Digital Age, Niels' Quest for Quality, Quality for DevOps Teams, and a few other recent books, already printed 25,000 books. So all in all, it's about 160,000 books, which really shows that TMAP is a body of knowledge that has helped maybe even millions of people in improving their quality and testing work. And then, of course, we have the ebooks, because today we spread at least as many ebooks as printed books. So let's dive into the history of TMAP. And then let's start at the early history. And this is a piece of text from the Netherlands Parliament, known as Tweede Kamer. And in 1986, something went wrong at the tax office, so the organization that collects all the taxes in the Netherlands. And then it was such a big deal that it was discussed in Parliament, and the responsible state secretary had to show up. And then the state secretary promised that there would be a handbook testing, and it would be ready on the 1st of July 1987. And of course, the state secretary was not going to make that book themselves, so he needed someone to help the team. And that someone was a guy called Martin Pol. And here you see Martin at our speakers reunion with this original book, the handbook testing of the Netherlands tax office. And Martin told us that that handbook was such a success that they even printed 500 copies to be sold outside of the tax office. So although it was meant to be a book just for their own organization within the government, it was sold throughout the Netherlands, about 500 times. And then Martin got involved in one of the predecessors of Society, the company that I work for. And they asked him, can you join our company and do something more with this testing? And that was, as a result, it was testing according to TMAP. So in 1995, the first TMAP book was published, and it had 4 pillars. And the first pillar was phases, and I'll show the picture of the phases in a minute. So there were several phases involved in testing. And the second one was techniques. And the main techniques were, of course, the test design techniques, because TMAP always has been very strong in test design techniques. Another thing that's always needed is infrastructure. And as you probably know, infrastructure still today is one of the big problems. And last but not least, organization. So organization of the whole testing and everything around it. Now, talking about these phases, this is the so-called TMAP Weber. And in Dutch, it was called the TMAP Weber. And then one day somebody asked me, we need to translate it to English. What is Weber in English? Nobody knew. But that is because this is where the name Weber comes from. It is a little box with little sweets, and they have this parallel shape, parallelogram shape. So that's why it was called. But the TMAP phases were planning and control, preparation, specification, execution, and conclusion. So this is the first thing that many testers started off with, because the huge spike in the need for testing was around the year 2000 with the well-known Y2K problem. And then many people got the TMAP book and started their career in professional testing. Like I said, 10 years later, people said, okay, but there needs to be more. Just the things in the original TMAP book was not enough anymore for the early 2000s. So then 4 new authors showed up, and they came with these 4 essentials. And the first one is adaptive, because this method needs to be adaptive to all sorts of situations. Imagine the handbook that was written for the test office. There it was totally focused on what the tax office needed in the late 1980s. And back then it was mainly V-model based development. But in the 2000s already new things came up. So TMAP needed to be adaptive. And it had a structured process. And in this picture, you still see the parallelogram picture, because that basic structure of the phases in TMAP was still maintained. Then they said you need a toolbox, a complete toolbox with test design techniques, but also some test automation and all sorts of other things. And they said you need business-driven test management. And that business-driven test management was such a big thing that an extra book was written about it, and that was published in 2008. And that is actually also when I joined TMAP. That was the first book that I had some contribution to as the project leader for creating that book. So in the 2000s, we had this structured process and some supporting things. And test management was a big thing. You had test managers running all of the testing. And later we will see that has changed a bit today. Then in 2014, we said, okay, TMAP needs to be more human-driven. It needs to be around people. And that is also with the agile mindset. And therefore, it was called TMAP HD, human-driven. And it was part of the TMAP suite, because the Niels Quest for Quality book, which is quite a small book, it's sort of a pocket book, that was just a novel about the test manager, because the idea was all the basic knowledge and all the knowledge you have to look up, you look it up on the website. Because with the TMAP HD book, we also got a renewed website, and basically all the knowledge was on the website. But the TMAP book was there mainly to inspire people. So we still had a little book, but it was not the carrier of all the knowledge. However, in this book, we introduced 20 so-called building blocks. And these building blocks, they also appeared on the website, of course. And there you see some, relatively known things that built upon the previous things from the TMAP suite, and some new things, for example, model-based testing. But the core thing in this book was built-in quality, because you don't just want to test at the end, and then if the quality is not enough, improve the quality. No, you want to build quality in from the start. And then in 2020, we published Quality for DevOps Teams, the current carrier of the TMAP body of knowledge. And by now we already are at the third edition. Of this book alone, we have printed already more than 10,000 copies. And here we introduced the TMAP topics, 20 topics that are always important. And 11 of them are so-called organizing topics. They are topics that relate to multiple teams working together. For example, the first one is the quality and test policy. Well, you don't want every individual team to make their own policy. You want to have one policy for your organization, or at least within a big group of teams. And the other group are the performing topics, the day-to-day quality engineering and testing topics, like test design, test automation, test execution, things you work on every day. However, this division in organizing and performing is not a black and white division, because some things like estimating and planning, they relate to multiple teams, but the actual estimate will be done within the team for their user stories. Also, in the book Quality for DevOps Teams, we introduced the voice model. And the voice model starts with the scope of business delivery. So it takes us outside of the scope of IT delivery, but to the business, because the business is mainly what counts. So, and then you start with defining the business value that is pursued. So what kind of business value do you want to have? And once you know the business value, then you get in the scope of IT delivery. You think about the objectives. So how can we achieve this business value? And then you want to measure if you're actually getting towards the business value and the objective. And that is done by measuring indicators. And measuring indicators is mainly testing. So that's how testing fits in the whole picture. And the information you get by measuring the indicators supports your stakeholders, like the product owner, to get confidence that they will actually get the business value they pursue. And then the system, when they have enough confidence, they decide to go live, and then the system is put in use, and then the users experience the real value. And then something interesting happens. Then they get new ideas for additional business value. And that's where we have this value improvement loop. And if you work DevOps with a Kanban approach, you will go through this loop multiple times, maybe per day even. If you work in an agile fashion with sprints of like 2 weeks, then every 2 weeks you have a value improvement loop. And even this model relates to traditional IT, where you can have a loop of a month or even 3 months, and then you have a big chunk of business value. However, over time, we learned that the shorter the cycle, the more agile you are, and also the less waste you will have in your process. So over the years, there have been 4 different TMAP certification schemes. The first TMAP certification scheme was launched in the late 1990s based on the original TMAP book. And here you see the original TMAP authors today, Ruud Teunissen, Erik van Veenendaal, and Martin Pol. And back then it started with having a book, then training courses, and then somebody said, can we make some exams with that? That model worked. So with the TMAP Next book, and unfortunately at our reunion, 2 of the authors were on vacation, but here you see them holding the book. Then we had the TMAP Next certification, and that one was huge. We had many people taking that certification and doing the training courses and educating themselves about testing. 10 years later, we had the book Niels' Quest for Quality, and then we had the so-called TMAP Suite education. And today, based on Quality for DevOps Teams, we started in 2020 the current TMAP certification scheme that looks like this. We have 4 training courses. It starts with Quality for cross-functional teams for all people in a modern agile or DevOps team. And then the people that want to dig deeper in the engineering side is high performance quality engineering. So, and TMAP today is broader than just testing. It's about quality engineering, so building quality in, providing information about quality and improving the quality. So the high performance quality engineering goes in also some development subjects, some operational subjects, all sort of things. And we have organizing built-in quality at scale. And why at scale? Well, because as long as quality engineering and testing is done within your cross-functional team, you don't need to organize that much. So you won't have a need for example, a test manager or anything like that. But if you have multiple teams in Agile at scale, then you need to organize. And nowadays, we see a lot of demand for that, not only for test managers, but also for people that we call quality orchestrators. And then we have a special TMAP course, Quality Engineering for SAP, because the SAP world is huge and has some specific things that are different from, well, regular IT, you might say. And for all of these training courses, there is standard material available that people can license. So we currently have material in 4 languages, which is English, French, German, and Spanish. And we have accredited training providers across 10 different countries. And we have people already certified for this new certification scheme on 4 continents. The only continent that's missing is Australia. So if Australian people watch this, maybe you want to be the first one in Australia or New Zealand to also take this training course. And by the way, we are very happy that ISQI is supporting both the certification, the examination, and the accreditation of training providers. Now, a lot of people ask me about ISTQB and TMAP. How do those relate? Well, as you probably know, ISTQB recently celebrated their 20-year anniversary. TMAP has a 30-year anniversary, so TMAP exists much longer. And one of the people that wrote the original TMAP book, Erik van Veenendaal, is also one of the people who founded ISTQB. So it's not surprising that in the ISTQB syllabi and glossary, you will find many references to TMAP. For example, here in the Certified Tester Advanced Level Test Management, you will find a reference to the TMAP.net website about TPI, which is part of the whole TMAP body of knowledge. Or here in the Advanced Level Test Management, you see a reference to TMAP, because in TMAP, we think the word defect is confusing, and therefore we use anomaly management according to the IEEE 1044 standard. Or in the Certified Tester Foundation level, you find a reference to the book TMAP Next that we have just seen. And in the glossary, you also find some terms like the term test basis, which has a definition based on TMAP. In the reference for the glossary, there's yet again a reference to the TMAP Next book. And also the term test type in the glossary is after TMAP. So basically, ISTQB and TMAP go very well together. There's one thing that in which TMAP is able to move somewhat faster. For example, integrating DevOps in TMAP is already done. 5 years ago, we published the book. And since then, we have the whole Agile and DevOps approach fully integrated. In ISTQB, they're working on it. Agile is there, and DevOps, well, people are working on that. But ISTQB and TMAP can blend very well together, and together is a good and solid foundation under proper quality engineering and testing. So what's the status today? Today it's about quality engineering. And when we started with the Quality for DevOps Teams book, nobody really knew what quality engineering was. So people asked us, what is it? And we looked for a definition and we couldn't find the definition. So with the help of at least 25 different people, we made a definition, which is quality engineering is about team members and their stakeholders taking joint responsibility to continuously deliver IT systems with the right quality at the right moment, to the business people and their customers. And here it is about the right quality. You may have seen definitions that say highest quality, but sometimes average quality at a good moment is better than the highest quality way too late. So it is finding balance between quality and speed. Also, quality engineering is a principle of software engineering concerned with applying quality measures to assure the quality of IT systems. Because there are very many different quality measures. And in this talk, I don't have time to elaborate much on that. But on the TMAP website, you will find a template for the quality engineering strategy. And in that template, we describe over 100 different quality measures, both to build in quality, to provide information about quality, and to improve quality. So different kinds of quality measures. Now, and one important quality measure is testing. And what is the core of testing? What is the most important product of testing? That is information about quality and risks. So therefore, our definition of testing is you have a test object, you do verification and validation, and a lot of people already know about verification and validation, but also exploration, because exploration is looking for the things that people did not specify but may happen with your system. So the three things together, verification, validation, and exploration, provide you the information you need about the quality, and that is mainly the things you want, and the risks, the quality risks, also known as product risks, and those are basically the things you don't want. So you get information, do you get what you want, don't you get what you don't want, and that builds confidence that you will get the pursued business value. And that's basically what testing is all about today. Well, the TMAP website has loads of information for different kinds of IT delivery models, and also grouped in all sorts of informative subjects. And what does TMAP mean for people and organizations? And of course, over the years, hundreds, if not thousands of organizations, or maybe even more, worked with TMAP. And I struggled a bit to get all that information. So I asked ChatGPT to help me. And of course, this is way too much text for me to explain to you. But the basic thing is ChatGPT just searching the internet already found a lot of information underlining that TMAP indeed helped many people and many organizations over these 30 years. Impact on the people and using all these organizational practices, but also contribution to the broader testing community. Now, sometimes people ask me, yeah, but still this quality engineering and testing is very difficult to explain to the users or my manager. If your director or your CEO comes by and they say, why is it all this effort in quality engineering and testing? Because basically the only thing it does is give you a little bit of information. Well, then we explain it like this. And I made a little tile for this. As maybe you know, in the Netherlands, it's common to have tiles with important sayings on it. And here it is. Why do we want quality engineering and testing? Well, so you can sleep like a baby. So that's the basic thing. You don't need to worry about quality of your IT system. That's why we spend effort on quality engineering and testing. But then they say, yeah, but you cannot look at everything, because basically it has long been known that extensive testing is impossible. So what do we do? Where do we put the effort? Well, where the business wins big and the bugs bite hardest. So focus on business value and on the quality risks. And then they say, yeah, but we want it quick. How do we get speed? Well, use bots and agents. So basically, it is about automation. So the summary is you get peace of mind, you look at business value and quality risks, and you automate wherever that is useful. We will never say you need to automate everything, but you automate where it's useful. What about the future of TMAP? And we're already getting towards the end of this talk. Now, the future of TMAP is in GenAI quality engineering. And here you see Jeroen Egelmeers in the middle holding the mock-up of our new book. We are still working on it, and it's supposed to be launched in September. And Wouter, Jeroen, and me are working on this book currently. And one of the things that's in the book is vibe coding. Now, vibe coding is a very new term. As you can see here, this is the message on X that Andrej Karpathy of OpenAI placed on the 2nd of February 2025. And many people talk about vibe coding. But vibe coding basically is not the way to go, because we say you should do AMP coding and AMP testing. And AMP stands for amplified coding and testing. So not just using ChatGPT and trusting that ChatGPT can do the job. No, you have ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini to support you and collaborate. So more on that in the near future. Where could GenAI support? Well, you see the picture here of all the TMAP topics, and a lot of people think of these performing topics. But basically, GenAI can support in any of the topics. So anywhere around quality engineering and testing, GenAI can be a support. And of course, in this talk, I don't have time to go into the details, but keep in mind that GenAI can support anywhere. And over the next, well, let's say very soon, actually, we all will need to investigate how can GenAI support us in a proper way, keeping in mind the risks that GenAI also brings. But that's for another talk. Now, if you exist for 30 years, you have a celebration, and with a celebration comes a present. Now, for the people that understand Dutch, there is a nice podcast in the Technology Leads channel on your favorite podcast app. And that is a podcast where we interview many of those authors. On the day that we got together, we interviewed many of the authors. Here you see Tom van de Ven, one of the authors of Testing in the Digital Age, interviewing Cecile Davids, who wrote, what was it again? It's Scrum, TMAP Next in Scrum. And then Jeroen Egelmeers of the latest book. So, and you can hear Martin Pol and Erik van Veenendaal and well, all the other people in that talk. And then for everybody, we have the first TMAP audio book. What we did is we recorded a summary of the TMAP book, and it's available for everybody in your favorite podcast app. Go to the Technology Labs channel, and keep in mind the previous slide was the Technology Leads channel, that's in Dutch, and the Technology Labs channel is in English. But also you can just go to the TMAP Body of Knowledge website, find the books page for this book, and there you will find a link to listen to the audiobook. So that brings me to the end of 30 years of TMAP, and we are looking forward to a very nice, bright future, because we intend to go on in at least another 30 years. Thank you for your attention and being part of this whole A4Q Testing Summit. And I wonder, maybe there are still some questions. And Elena, your microphone is off.
Oh, I'm still muted. Okay, thank you so much, Rik. First of all, congratulations to 30 years. That's really an accomplishment. And thank you for giving us such great insights. And also, of course, the first TMAP audiobook. That's very exciting. We have a couple of questions for you that came in. Yeah, the first one. So you talked a little bit about the new book. Could you tell us more about what the future of TMAP holds for us?
Well, yes, of course. What we notice is that GenAI can actually be used in 3 ways. So the way that most people know is writing prompts. So then you write a prompt and you instruct ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini or whatever it is, just to do something for you. And in some things that already works quite well. For example, if you want to make test cases with boundary value analysis, then you ask ChatGPT, this is the context, the situation, write test cases, and it generally works quite well. If you want to do more complex things, then organizations are now building sort of a shell around GenAI so that the users don't have to make their own prompts, but they have a user interface, they enter some information, and behind the screens there are the complete prompts. And the latest development is agentic AI, where you have autonomous AI agents. And on the one hand, that is very much promising. On the other hand, it also, to me, brings great risks, because if GenAI does things fully autonomous, then, well, I see risks for quality so let's see how that develops. And we are currently writing about how to go about these pitfalls, what you can do about it, and how you can use GenAI in a proper and sensible way.
Very interesting. Yeah, let's hope the human factor always plays a role. And
Yeah.
like, we're all in the certification business. So what I always wonder is, like, how many people are actually certified in the field? So how about TMAP? Do you know how many people are actually certified?
Well, over the years, like I already explained in my talk, we have been doing certifications now for more than 25 years. And until 5 years ago, we always used to joke TMAP is world famous in the Netherlands, because it was mainly focused on the Netherlands and not so much outside. But 2 weeks ago, we had the TestNet event, which is the biggest gathering of testers in the Netherlands. And we had a huge auditorium full of testers. And I also did a talk on 30 years of TestNet. And I asked the full auditorium to stand up if they had the first certification, the second, the third, and the current. And in the end, 3/4 of the room was standing.
Wow.
So that was many people. And what I remember is that over the years, until 5 years ago, we had, well, some 20,000 people certified, maybe some more even. I don't know those exact numbers. And since 2005, we have the new certification scheme based on the Quality for DevOps Teams book. And since then, we already have somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 people certified in more than 20 countries across the globe, like I said, in 4 continents. And it's growing rapidly, because the number of training providers is still growing. The number of countries where we have accredited training providers is still growing. So the numbers are going up very well. And I'm very happy that we can help so many people with the knowledge from the TMAP body of knowledge and help them improve their IT systems.
Well, great. Well, congratulations on these impressive numbers. And we talked a lot about TMAP and like how you help people get certified at the end of the day. But we want to hear something about you for just like closing this very, very like interesting presentation. So what is a personal story that you have about TMAP?
Yeah. Well, if I think back of TMAP in my career, like I explained in the beginning, I've been working at Society for 17 years, but I started my career in quality and testing in 1998. And approximately 1998, 1999, I was working in a Y2K project at the year 2000. And then I got a copy of the TMAP book in hand. And then I browsed through the book, and basically I thought, how nice that they put together all these things that basically we know, because back then I already worked in IT for more than 10 years and I knew a bit about testing. I even had been a so-called test coordinator without any background as theory, but just doing the things we thought was useful. And that also showed me that TMAP is very much based on practical experience. It's not just an academic book, but it brings together practical experience, because all these things that I had experienced myself were reflected in the book and the approaches in the book. And over the years, we have kept doing that, because in our latest book, like I said, on the cover, you have 4 names, but in the thank you of the book, we have more than 80 people, 80 people, because many people contribute, help us, give new insights, and well, and so basically, TMAP has been in my career for more than 25 years. Not exactly the 30 years that we're talking about here, but almost all my career I've been working with TMAP and knowing about it, and I'm very happy that I'm now able to contribute more and build it and extend it. And therefore, I'm also very much excited that we're working on the new book around GenAI now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing so much now also about your personal history with TMAP, but also TMAP's history. It was so interesting to hear your talk. Thank you for being here. For everyone out there, please don't forget to vote. And we're very excited to see you in the next presentation. And Rik, I wish you a great day, and I hope to see you and talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Elena. And
Thank you.
thanks, everybody. And enjoy the rest of the Testing Summit.
Bye.